What's going on, everybody? Peter Dewey with FanSided here, and today I'm joined by legendary broadcaster and the voice of March Madness, Ian Eagle. Ian, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Yeah, you got it, Peter. Great to be with you.
So this March has been pretty crazy tournament. We saw a lot of favorites win over the weekend in the round of 32, but this is your first March as the voice of March Madness, taking over for Jim Nance. Can you just tell me a little bit about that and how that's gone this season?
Yeah, it's been a lot of the same in terms of preparing for the tournament and getting to your site and investing all the time that is required to learn about the teams. And then when the games start, by the way, you have no say over what happens. Upsets, dominant performances, blowouts. I've seen them all. I've been doing the tournament for 26 years. So there's not much that can shock me at this stage. The difference this year is the finality of it, the fact that I'll be there for the Final Four. So the two games on Saturday, the national championship game on Monday, but you can't really get ahead of yourself when it
Mhm.
comes to this event. You now have to lock in on your next set of games. And the fact that I'm going to Dallas and we'll have the Marquette NC State game followed by Duke and Houston, that's what's monopolizing my time, my attention, my focus. And then we'll turn the page and get ready for the Final Four once we know who's actually participating in it.
And this has been a crazy, crazy tournament.
Yep.
Just we saw some upsets in the first round. The Oakland upset, obviously,
Yep.
that kind of shocked everybody. Has there been any game or team that has surprised you the most so far this March?
Well, I must say I was surprised by Duke. I think everyone went into the NCAA tournament thinking that Duke had hit a skid, the loss to North Carolina in the regular season finale, the loss to NC State in the ACC tournament. Now we look back and you realize, wait a second, North Carolina is excellent. They could easily be a Final Four team, might even be a national championship team. And little did we know at that point that NC State was going to go on this magical run, win the ACC tournament, win their first two games, and get to the Sweet 16 and maybe more, considering this carpet ride that they're on. So, like everything, we have very strong opinions based on recency bias. Meanwhile, Duke comes in, they do enough against Vermont, and then in the second round game against James Madison, everything falls into place. Everything. That's the best game they've played this season, in my mind, given the circumstances. Making shots, strong defensive effort, and joy. I think that was the thing that struck me, Peter. Everybody that you talk to in regards to the Duke program this year is it felt a little stressed out, like they're
Mhm.
trying to live up to the Duke name. And they got to Brooklyn and everything fell into place. So whether or not they can carry that into the matchup with the number one seed, Houston, that was fortunate to get to the Sweet 16, the crazy end of that regulation against Texas A&M. They had four guys foul out. They still had enough to get the W. So I think that's a really fun matchup in the Sweet 16.
Oh, for sure. And do you think about, you mentioned having fun. I mean, Jared McCain, just what he
Mm.
brings to Duke in that first half, especially in the James Madison game. But he's one of the guys I've really enjoyed watching this tournament. I'm curious for you, anybody, whether you've been on the game or just watched from afar, anybody that's really stood out to you as a player this tournament that you've enjoyed.
Well, I had Bailey Connect at the end, Dalton Connect, excuse me, at the end of the regular season. And he does bring a unique skill set. I think, as we know, when it comes to this tournament, individual standouts can carry you for 3 weeks. And the fact that McCain got hot at the right time shows you that uh, you can feed off that as a team. And with Tennessee, they're going to have their hands full with Creighton, don't get me wrong. But they have the kind of mix that if they get to the biggest stage, that's one of those names that could be etched in the annals of history when it comes to March Madness. This is how it works.
Mhm.
There are players that will be forever legends based on what they do in this tournament. It doesn't matter what happens beyond, whether it's a professional career or not. Chris Jenkins will always be remembered for his
Mhm.
shot for Villanova to win the national championship. That can never be taken away. And for one of these players, there's a chance in the 2024 version that the same thing happens.
For sure. I'm curious for you being in the Brooklyn slate over this first weekend. What
Mhm.
was the favorite game for you that you covered? I know there were a bunch of great ones, but was there one that stood out to you?
Yeah, Florida Atlantic Northwestern was a legitimate battle. It's 20-19 at the half. We're looking at one another, me, Bill Raftery, Grant Hill, Tracy Wolfson saying, we got a rock fight here. This is
Mhm.
not what we anticipated. And then in the second half, both teams found a flow offensively. Looked like Northwestern was going to take the game. They had a sizable lead, up 8 late, and there was a technical foul called on Nick Martinelli, and it changed the entire game. Florida Atlantic now seizes control, and they're one stop away from moving on to the second round. This was a Final Four team last year, shocked
Mhm.
the world to get to the Final Four. And once Barnheiser makes the shot to send the game to overtime, Northwestern couldn't miss. Ryan Langborg, shot after shot, Bowie pitches in his manner. It was a really fun NCAA tournament game. This is one of those matchups where you just don't see it very often. Northwestern and Florida Atlantic had never played. And that's what makes this tournament so much fun is you get these matchups that you will never see during the regular season. There's no geographic connection, there's no competitive connection, but in the tournament, you don't have a choice. You got to play who's in your subregion.
Yeah, and it makes for some really great matchups. And we saw Northwestern go to the second round. They play UConn, and UConn just absolutely dominant
Yep.
all weekend. Do you think there's anybody that can beat them? Obviously, there's a lot of great teams, but with the way they're clicking right now, is it possible?
They have a really tough draw. Compare it to a year ago where they plowed through the tournament. They won every game by 13 or more points. It's now 8 straight tournament games winning by 13 or more points. It's never been done before. First time in NCAA tournament history. That's how dominant UConn has been. It's going to be more challenging on this go around. There's no doubt that they are in a very tough region. If you told me that Iowa State was in the Final Four, I would have believed it. If you told me that Illinois made the Final Four, I would have believed it. Well, that's where UConn is. They're in that region. They're playing teams that are certainly capable of being Final Four teams. But if you're asking me pound for pound, right now,
Hmm.
they are the best team in college basketball. They are the most complete team in college basketball. They are the most confident team in college basketball. That goes a long way in this tournament. If you believe what it is that the coach is selling, and Dan Hurley sells a lot because he is a very thorough human being. He believes in motivation. He believes in different ways to motivate. And he really has this team locked in right now. Much bigger challenge than a year ago to repeat, but they certainly have the look of a team that can do it.
And I got one more March Madness question for you because I agree with you 100% on UConn. It feels like, if they can stay the course, it's going to be very, very tough to beat them.
Yep.
But is there any team left in these 16 teams do you think is a sleeper that maybe some people aren't expecting can make a run that you think can make a run?
Well, I think Creighton is very good, and Creighton has an opportunity now against Tennessee to pull off a win. And now you get to potentially the winner of Purdue Gonzaga, and you don't know if the ghosts of tournament past will come and play a role in Purdue not achieving what they think they can achieve. Big part for Purdue, in my mind, was getting out of the first 2 rounds, doing it against teams that were upstarts, because that's been an issue. The last 2 tournaments, they got upset by Fairleigh Dickinson. They got upset by St. Peter's. Maybe the key was just don't play a team from New Jersey and you'll have a chance to win the tournament. My other team that I think could possibly surprise some people, I just mentioned them, is Iowa State. I had them during the regular season. I think TJ Otzelberger has done a fantastic job building this program, uh, getting guys that do the things that he wants to do. Hard-nosed defense, connected, and enough offense to keep you honest, but they lean mostly on their defense. If you get them on the wrong day, they're going to clip you. I really like that team. I happen to like that matchup a lot. I just think Iowa State, Illinois is going to be a major battle.
Yeah, that should be a fun one. We got the race to the Final Four going on, but you're also partnering with Sheba for the
Yep.
Gravy Race this year. Can you tell me a little bit about that partnership and what you're looking forward to with it?
Yeah, a lot of fun. That to me is the key. I take play-by-play very seriously. I don't take myself that seriously. And what I find in events that I've called throughout my career is you have to understand how to approach things. And this was a blast to be a part of. The Sheba brand gravy indulgence. It's a new flavor for cats. They're loving it, and you can tell in these races how much they're loving it. The gravy race is everything you can imagine it to be, and then some. These are the most popular cats in the world. We're talking about TikTok followers, Instagram followers, all across social media. They have major followings. And it was really a blast to be a part of it. So if you like high energy, enthusiasm, and if you like cat competition, this is for you.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Bringing the play-by-play to everything. And you call NFL games, you call NBA games, it's everywhere. I
Got
gotta
to be
ask
versatile,
you,
man. You got to be
yeah,
versatile in life. I realized that early in my career. If someone calls with something new and exciting and different, my instinct is to say yes. I want to be a part of it. And Sheba obviously is a top of line brand, so this was a no brainer.
that's amazing. That's awesome. I gotta ask you about the NBA real quick because
Yep.
that's my favorite. You cover a lot of the Brooklyn Nets.
Yep.
I'm very curious your thoughts on what the team needs to do going forward to get back to the playoffs. They obviously had the crazy teardown with the losing Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, but what do you think the next step is for them to really turn themselves back into a playoff contender?
Yeah, they're going to have to figure out what the direction is. Is it standing pat with the players that you have and believe that a new coach could potentially come in and untap a lot of that potential? Or is it time to make some large moves and acquire draft capital in order to rebuild this back up? It's a hard decision. You know, you're running a business in addition to running a basketball team, and all of it is interconnected. So I don't know if they've made that call yet. Behind the scenes, I'm sure this is a daily conversation that Sean Marks, the head of basketball operations, is having with his people, with ownership. And it's not a quick fix.
Hmm.
You've got to commit one way or the other. If you believe you have enough on your team right now, then that means you're out seeking talent and you're trying to find a big star that's going to fit with this group. If you don't believe in the current personnel, then this becomes a much different approach where you've got to now turn those players into draft picks so that you've got some maneuverability. And as we see in the NBA, that's not a guarantee because
Hmm.
then you've got to be really sharp in your draft picks. These are not projects. These have to be players that can be impact guys within the first 2 years of their career with your team. It's a challenge. It's a part of what makes the NBA what it is. There's no exact way to do it. You've got to find out what makes the most sense for your team, your organization, your culture, and that's part of the mystery.
Yeah, we talk about draft picks and building a franchise. I got one last question for you with the NFL draft coming up next month.
Yep.
Don't want to put you on the spot here, but if you were picking number one with the Bears, who's the quarterback you're taking, and how do you kind of rank the quarterbacks in this draft class?
Yeah, my situation when it comes to the draft, I realized, I don't know how many years ago now, I can't put the time and energy into it that I used to. I was a draftnik. I loved it, but I don't watch much college football anymore. I just don't have the time. And on Saturdays, I'm locked in on my Sunday matchup. So, of course, I've seen Caleb Williams. I've seen all of the great quarterbacks play, but
Mhm.
you're asking me this grand question that's going to make or break a franchise. And I can't, with any conviction, tell you that this guy's can't miss. This guy is someone that you want to avoid. This is an inexact science, as we know.
Hmm.
And as we've learned through the years, this either makes or breaks your franchise. And what we've seen with the Bears, what we've seen with the Jets in recent years, it's a cycle. If you don't hit on it, that's another 4 years,
Mhm.
4 more years of trying to figure out what the next step is. And in sports terms, that feels like an eternity.
For sure, for sure. Ian, thank you so much for joining me today. It was a pleasure. Good luck with the rest of March Madness and your first Final Four. Very excited to hear you on the call. And thank you again.
All right, Peter, appreciate it. Great talking to you, man.